Review of Raw for Monday night on USA Now on the John and Wai Take the Mic.
Hello and welcome to Review of Raw. I'm John Pollock along with the Raw branded Wai Ting.
Oh yeah.
Look at this. You're just taking on sponsors week by week.
Give me a free shirt, I'll wear it on TV.
Amoeba Music.
Yeah, that is right.
Courtesy of who?
Do I really have to say?
Well, you got to thank your sponsors, Wai.
I think we should just go on. Courtesy of Amoeba Music.
Courtesy of CM.
Sure.
Punk fan.
Yeah.
Music of punk.
And what about you? Representing the Cruiserweights.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm multicolored here.
Yeah. Courtesy of? Where did you get your shirt?
Courtesy of the Bay, I think.
Nice.
It's
Cool.
a roundabout way of saying I don't know.
Let's redo the show. I don't
There's
like
no
this.
redoing.
I don't like
Wai.
this opening.
There's none. There's a big question. A lot of people were concerned last week.
Yeah.
You have brought the hat back this week. What was going on last week, Wai, with your hair? I didn't notice this.
Yeah. I didn't have a monitor, I guess.
Oh,
Couldn't really check myself
big
out.
adjustment.
Yeah.
But is the hat?
No, I should maybe shave.
So-
Maybe I should shave my head.
It's a lot
Easiest
easier.
look. Easiest look.
It's the way to go, Wai.
Yeah.
But you have nice hair, I will say.
Thank you very much.
I kind of felt people were piling on you last week.
Oh, well. Yeah. When you're right, you're right. I did not have a good hair day last week.
Well,
I'm glad we're spending valuable time talking about my hair instead of reviewing this show.
We're gonna get to Raw, Wai.
Let's just talk more about what we're wearing today, how we look specifically, especially for our audio-only audience.
I'm having a
Must love
solid
this.
7 out of 10 day, I think.
Oh, yeah. No, I'd say more than that, man. Yeah, you look great, man.
It's not often you get the critiques. Usually it's, oh, God, look at the animal that came from under the bridge here.
You know what?
People are concerned, Wai. You are the more cosmopolitan of the two of us.
Should we simply just review the way we look?
I don't know if we could fill a whole show with that.
Yeah, we can. Come on. We're pretty vain people, let's be honest. Why else are we talking into or letting our opinions that don't really matter? Why are we trying to force our opinions on
I'll
everybody
tell you
else?
why we're not going to go over our looks, because this is doing a number on our podcast numbers as we speak.
I think people are loving this.
Well, Wai,
I'm telling you, we should have restarted this show.
let us flip the page that is held together by the Staples, the same Staples that produced the Staples Center, which is where Raw was held on Monday night from beautiful Los Angeles, California.
That was a 7 out of 10.
Thank you. Were you excited for this Raw, Wai? There were a lot of things announced going into this. Danny Masterson, Ashton Kutcher, a women's title match, a cruiserweight title match that they would sneakily switch on the website to a non-title match.
See, I thought it was a title match until after the finish.
That was the point, I feel. They were very sneaky about things.
Yeah.
But going into this, we had a preview with Corey Graves noting, this was our first graphic, was the TJ Perkins, Brian Kendrick one, and Graves noting that Kendrick wants to wake TJ Perkins up from his dream come true. They never said title match, but they were very subtle about it. Last week they did say title match, did they not?
So, yeah.
I believe everyone thought that they said title match last week. And this week, it was just quietly changed to a non-title match. So, the man who now starts Raw every week is Roman Reigns. He comes out, actually, a kind of conservative involvement of Roman Reigns on this show when you think about it. He says his bloodline has been represented in the WWE for a long time, but none of them have won the United States title until now. He is the guy, which was met with boos, and then he was interrupted by Lana, who came out and the crowd chanted, "Thank you, Lana," for interrupting Roman Reigns. And Lana had her own match here. Lana versus her accent, because she had to talk for a long time here. And there were times when I was worried that her interrogation role was just going to take over here, but a true pro here.
She's been doing this accent for years now, so I imagine it must come pretty natural to her at this point.
But it's very short bursts.
Yeah, sure.
It's not like she's practicing this and doing long promos as she had to do here.
I wonder what her longest streak is of speaking only with her accent. You think she practices?
This might have been it.
Think she spends maybe days off only talking in the accent?
Oh, it would drive Rusev nuts, I bet.
Maybe he'd like it.
Maybe she just does it permanently. Maybe it was a stretch to do that movie and have to revert back. So she says her husband doesn't even know she is out here, and Reigns laughs at this, stating that there are TVs everywhere backstage, and Lana is the only woman that pays attention to Rusev, so he definitely knows that she is out here. And Lana's response was, "That's funny. I'm laughing." And she did such a great delivery of this line at the smirking Roman Reigns. Lana says that Rusev wants a rematch for the title and tells him to wipe that smile, you stupid boy. And he tells her to go give Rusev his Bulgarian balls back. And Lana says, go to hell. Go to hell. Which just so coincidentally is one of the key words in the branding of the pay-per-view at the end of this month. You go to hell. And Rusev comes out, and him and Roman fight on the floor into the ring. Reigns leaps off the steps into a Rusev kick. And then Reigns he takes Rusev and gets thrown into the WWE Universe. And Rusev is making his way up the ramp with the championship. Mm-hmm. And he's posing at the front when all of a sudden Roman Reigns appears from behind him on the ramp. He's gone all the way around from the WWE Universe into the vortex that it is, and he came out the other side. And he attacked Rusev, left him laying, and he says he will take both of them to hell and says that the rematch will be inside of a Hell in a Cell.
Right, yes. I mean, really just a segment to introduce the stipulation, isn't it?
Yes, a ring cannot contain these two.
Yeah, it was fine.
So this is one of our Cell matches.
Yeah, I thought it was just okay.
And this was the only involvement of Roman Reigns on this show. Mm-hmm. Which, for all the flack that match got last week, and I'm not saying I was enjoying it, that first hour actually held up pretty well last week, all things considered, with what they were going against. And that first hour was higher than any of the other hours they've done since football's come back. So Roman Reigns and Rusev, maybe they're going to go 60 minutes if there's any other big competition in the fall. World Series game, they got those two ready.
Not in Toronto, probably.
No, probably not.
Yeah.
So there we have our first match for Hell in a Cell. There's a feature on TJ Perkins and how he defeated Brian Kendrick at Clash of Champions and the Headbutt. They come out. I thought this LA crowd, they certainly were a crowd you wanted. For both Cruiserweight matches on this show, I thought the crowd enhanced them.
I would only say for this one, to be honest with you. I didn't feel the crowd so much in that second one, but for this one, it felt like the weeks of build that they've given to TJ Perkins and Brian Kendrick at this point was starting to see its effects in the audience, being able to recognize them and giving these guys pretty decent reactions.
There were dueling chants for both guys as Perkins reluctantly shook the hand of Brian Kendrick and then sent Kendrick to the floor, and then he dabbed. And there was a corkscrew plancha by Perkins. Kendrick then took the fingers of TJ Perkins and placed them into the turnbuckle, connecting it with the post. And, I mean, he was doing all these kinds of unique spots in the Cruiserweight Classic, so I'm glad they're continuing with that. And they went through a commercial break. Perkins came back with a top rope Hurricane Rana. He did his Dodon into the double knees and applied the knee bar, but Kendrick got to the rope. Kendrick came back with the sliced bread, and then Perkins kicked out of that. Kendrick applied the captain's hook, rolled him into the middle, but then Perkins bridged and got a 2 count off of it. And then he hit the wrecking ball drop kick. Kendrick raked his eyes back into the captain's hook, and this time TJ Perkins tapped out. And I would say 90% of this crowd thought that the title had changed hands, which was at least a positive that they care about this title. But then they would realize, much like Roddy Piper beating Hulk Hogan at '96 Starrcade event, it was a non-title match.
I personally thought it was a title match. Maybe I just wasn't listening close enough, but clearly they see enough potential in this feud to keep it going for a number of matches, and I think it's been good so far. I think Kendrick's been excellent. I think by far he's the best actor of the bunch on the crew, and I would actually like to see him win the title at the eventual title match.
He's their Dan Henderson.
Sure. Yeah.
going for that title.
Yeah, except I don't think he'll retire afterwards. I thought it was a pretty good match for TV. They keep talking about how these two grew up together and
Now he's his mentor. Yes.
Yeah.
And they're from the California scene.
But the only kind of real background we get about that is from Cole, who I think has been doing a better job in recent weeks trying to kind of fill us in on a lot of the backstory. I really, though, I'm not sure why they haven't done more interviews in the same style that they did some of the other ones. We've been getting those same Cruiserweight Classic introduction interviews for months
He should
now.
do one of those sit downs with Michael Cole.
Perkins should, absolutely. And
I was talking about Kendrick.
he did one.
Kendrick did?
They showed clips from it.
With Michael Cole?
Yeah.
When did this happen?
During this, I think they put it on .com or something, but they showed clips from it in the interview.
Okay, well then we're thinking alike.
But the thing is, they never really showed them talking. The two of them never really talk about growing up together. Like, they're not really hitting that storyline as hard as Cole is. So there's a bit of an incongruency there.
Each and every week, it's your chance to win a t-shirt from ProWrestlingTees.com. Simply answer the trivia question and tweet @LawRadio for your chance to win each and every Thursday. We also want to let you know about Pro Wrestling Crate by Pro Wrestling Tees. Each month, Pro Wrestling Crate sends you a mystery box full of exclusively designed shirts, autographs, collectibles, and more. Get 20% off your first month by using coupon code LIVEAUDIO. Subscribe today at ProWrestlingCrate.com. So afterwards, we got Michael Cole doing a sit-down with Seth Rollins and going over his feud with Kevin Owens. He said he's been cleared by the doctors for his rib injury and says he wasn't beaten by Kevin Owens. He was handed the title by Triple H. He deserves a rematch after Clash of Champions. And Rollins says that he has alienated a lot of people in the locker room, how Owens does half the work, but he's the guy that gets the promotion. He is the teacher's pet. And now the Money in the Bank cash-in at WrestleMania 31 was now a heroic act that was years of hard work in the making. He did the hard work by cashing in that night at WrestleMania and says Hunter cannot replace Rollins with Owens and that Owens is a cog in the machine and he's going to tear that machine down. It starts with Owens and winning the title, and he's going to cancel the Kevin Owens show and prove that he is still the man. I was not as big on this promo.
No?
I don't know what it was, but I listened to this and I just felt nothing. It just felt like one of those promos that Seth Rollins to me has just not clicked in this babyface role yet. And I thought this promo would have been a great opportunity to do so. I heard words. I heard his desire to win the title.
Yeah.
But I did not feel any of this.
Do you think it's just a problem with the character's voice?
I think there's something to that. I think Rollins does not have a smooth delivery when it comes to these promos. It very much feels like a very rehearsed segment.
I thought he spoke better as a babyface this week, but I kind of agree with you that, by the end of the show, this was a rather forgettable segment. He didn't really say anything. He didn't really have much to say. I'm guessing the guy doesn't really have much of a program.
He should
this week. I mean, Owens is the program, but we don't know exactly when he'll be back for it.
Like, you don't have this. I don't think you have this great injustice that has been done to Seth Rollins, where people feel this guy was truly wronged, or that anything. I think they pointed out so often that this is essentially who Seth Rollins was prior. I don't know what it is, because this guy does have a great babyface story, but that is not translated for me as of yet. Byron is in the ring to interview Chase Silver, who moved here from Idaho to Hollywood, where dreams come true, he said. And last night he had a dream that he was going to beat Braun Strowman up.
They allow the audiences to hear the jobber interviews now.
Yes. So Braun comes out, and Silver gets knocked down. He comes from behind and shoves Strowman, and then gets splashed in the corner. There was a light delete chant as Braun is awaiting to hit him with a shoulder tackle and hit a power slam for the win in 1:42. So Chase Silver is still chasing those dreams.
We've seen a number of these guys with squash match gimmicks at this point, but I think Braun still does them the best by far. I mean, he's the biggest guy, which helps, but he also has really good aggression with these. So, I mean, they're actually probably not as easy to do as many people think.
Oh, Sheamus and Cesaro would prove that fact out later.
I mean, also, Bo Dallas hasn't made a return yet.
Yeah, a lot of them are just like Nia Jax. I don't think we've seen her in weeks.
Great. Yeah.
At this point. Byron interviewed Strowman afterwards about his dominance and is asked what is next. And he calls himself the gift of destruction. And his talents are being wasted on these guys. And he tells Byron to inform Foley that he wants some tougher competition.
I'm glad that they're finally kind of moving him beyond this, though. But I'll say, like, I feel like hearing him speak kind of ruins the illusion a little bit. He comes across a little goofy face to me, like kind of like a Gene Snitsky, where, like, physically the guy looks really intimidating, but once he kind of, like, opens his mouth and kind of, like, makes, maybe, like, it's the bulging eyes, he just looks a little...
You know whose program this is going to be?
Who?
Neville.
Maybe.
This poor guy.
Yeah.
That's who I immediately thought afterwards. I'm like, who is somebody that is an upgrade where you still get the size story? It's going to be Neville.
Could be.
We'll see.
Sami Zayn, perhaps.
Oh, boy. Sasha's backstage and Bayley walks in. Cannot believe that they are the main event of Raw tonight, with Bayley saying that's Trish Lita territory. And Sasha says she doesn't listen to the critics and mentions a Forbes article that stated Charlotte is already the greatest woman ever. And Sasha says she
Greatest women's wrestler.
Greatest women's wrestler.
Not the greatest woman.
Okay, both statements are ridiculous. I'm sorry. And was born to be champion.
Who would you say is the greatest women's wrestler in the WWE?
Oh, in the WWE.
I think
that's a big difference.
Well, that was what the article was saying.
The greatest wrestler. I thought it was the greatest female of all time.
No.
In the WWE?
Yeah. I don't even know. I mean, who would you say is the greatest woman of all time?
The greatest woman of all time. I mean,
Mother Teresa.
Mother Teresa was going to be
Really?
my pick, actually, I was going to say.
Even that's a little, I don't know. I feel like you can't say that. Who is the greatest of...
Okay, put it this way, though.
genders.
Who's going to mount the argument that Mother Teresa is not? I mean, you got to be a real dick to, like, come up with reasons why
Depends.
Mother Teresa is a failure at anything.
I'm not saying she's a failure, but to say she's the greatest... I mean, come on. I don't know.
I mean, in terms
There
of
are lots
contributions to life versus what you put in versus what you took out.
I'm sure there was some, like, royal, or, like, I don't know, Joan of Arc. Does she count?
Why not we send it to the message board?
The greatest
woman of all time.
all time.
And we'll acknowledge it next week.
That should
be
be
our
the
thing.
T-shirt trivia, the pro wrestling tees trivia.
We should do our female moment of the month or whatever, and instead of their Hispanic heritage moment, our female heritage moment.
On a serious note, though, why is Forbes doing these, like, wrestling articles now?
It's just they just outsource these articles to different writers, and wrestling is something they cover now.
Because wrestling is, I guess, something that always hits for anything online.
And Forbes is kind of the brand name, but this is like the Forbes network. It is very different from the Forbes
business.
Exactly.
Magazine.
Anyway.
Right.
So anyway, and they're main eventing this show. Catch all of our podcasts daily up at FightNetwork.com. You can also subscribe to Live Audio Wrestling on iTunes and listen through the free Stitcher app. They plugged the Rumble, which has been announced for the Alamo Dome in January in San Antonio. Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho come out. Strong response as Owens' music hits, and Owens responds to Rollins' interview, noting that Cole was terrible in it. Runs down Rollins and takes credit for injuring his ribs, and he wants Chris Jericho to be the special referee for his rematch with Seth Rollins. Jericho comes back and says that he feels they are the best team in the world, and the greatest men in the world maybe as well, and feel that they should challenge the New Day for the tag titles, and they can be tag team champions and the Universal Champion at the same time, which is something Jericho keeps stating, that they're both the Universal Champion. Owens says that it sounds like a lot of work to have to beat the New Day in a non-title match, then beat them for the titles. And Jericho responds saying, well, it's not like I'm asking for a shot at your title. And the crowd totally bit into this. Mm-hmm. That instantly told me they want to see it. It was the first hint of a match between these two.
Yeah.
And this total success if you were just dangling that out there for the audience to bite on. And Owens immediately backtracks and agrees, let's go for the tag titles at the thought of having to face Chris Jericho. Just for that alone, I thought this was great.
Yeah, definitely successful in executing that tease for the breakup.
I really hope this doesn't become a three-way at Hell in a Cell.
I mean, how many weeks are we away from Hell in a Cell?
3.
It'll be a three-way. Yeah. He'll be involved. They've got way too much time.
The New Day come out and state they have the best friendship in the WWE. Jericho adds all 3 of them to the list. Xavier selling this as Jericho added him to the list was great. Owens says to either give them what they want or leave, and state they are the most entertaining team, and calls it questionable cereal that they feed children, with Jericho noting there's too much sugar in it, and Owens stating that the New Day jumped the shark 7 months ago. And Woods asks the last time Owens jumped over anything, which got a big reaction. Yeah. Woods then stated they were going to leave and watch Magnificent Seven or Luke Cage, and Owens cut them off, yelling enough stupid references, and agreed to a match with Owens and Jericho. I thought the interplay between all 5 was just, I love this segment. I thought it was really great, and you accomplished something important at the beginning with Owens and Jericho, and this built to a tag match you wanted to see, and they were just great with one another. All 5 of them were great.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think you're talking about 5 men here who are pretty good at improv, it seems like, and I think the bit of trash talking we got between the 2 teams was,
that list is just so over at this point. Mm-hmm. It's great. Sheamus and Cesaro are shown arriving together. This evened out the entire segment. And imagine 2 5-year-olds that you had to script to not get along with one another. That's what we've got here. Like children that can't get along with one another, but they can drive. So I guess that's our only connection to adolescence.
I actually would have liked to have seen them just put some GoPros into a car so that we can get like a version of Ride Along with these 2, just to see them do this in a car to make it look a little bit different.
So they're arguing over driving, and Sheamus's luggage gets tossed onto the floor by Cesaro, and they just argue and argue. Then we had Sami Zayn come out, and he was taking on Titus O'Neil, who got an insert promo introducing us to the Titus brand, the hottest new entertainment brand. Everything is Titus, and Titus is everything. Hashtag make it a win.
So clearly the Darren Young feud is done. Let's go back to the drawing board and retool these guys, specifically Titus, who... Come on, let's rework this guy. There's a lot of potential.
I like how they've kind of taken Darren Young's gimmick of make Darren great again, and now it's just been, they've taken the parts they liked about Darren Young and just placed it onto Titus.
I don't know how much they liked about that Darren Young gimmick, because this was not any better. I mean, what is this?
What this was a pleasant surprise, because I thought poor Sami is going to lose to this guy as we get the latest attempt to get Titus over. But it wasn't. Graves actually went over Sami's background on the California wrestling scene, which was the closest we got to a PWG reference on this show. Titus attacked Zayn's back, was mocking his entrance music, and then there was a bear hug by Titus, a backbreaker was delivered, and Zayn responds with a clothesline, exploder into the corner, haluva kick, and he pins the Titus brand in 247.
Yeah, dude, I don't know what this new gimmick is. To me, I feel like they have so many half-baked gimmicks that they just ultimately want to throw out there to turn into comedy guys. Like, you see this, I mean, the Darren Young gimmick was just that. The Bo Dallas's gimmick.
It's all their ideas. Kurt Hawkins. Heath Slater.
Titus, the Titus brand. It could be nothing but a failure so that it turns into some type of comedy thing. And, there's just too much of that.
And meanwhile, we don't have... What direction has Sami Zayn had since Battleground? 0.
No.
None. You can check out The Law's YouTube channel at youtube.com/liveaudiowrestling. Subscribe for all of your free videos, including Ask Away, interviews, and much more. Cesaro and Sheamus are arguing in the locker room for being late and hitting rush hour. Mick Foley walks in, and he at least explained that it was Foley who forced them to travel together, because that was my first note that I wrote. Like, why are these 2 even traveling together? And they gave you a reason, at least, that Foley has made them. Foley notes that he was thoroughly humbled by Stephanie last week, and he wanted them to bond, and Cesaro accuses Sheamus of picking his nose. Foley cuts his passionate speech about them being dominant and they need to prove it tonight. And then we had a montage of Anderson and Gallows as Graves notes they are a team that dominates and are in action next. What they have dominated? I was going to stick around to find out because I did not know when they stated these words in connection to Anderson and Gallows. So they are out. They are already in the ring while Goldust and R-Truth get an entrance because R-Truth's sing-along subtitles are back.
Yeah. It's a you can do karaoke to the R-Truth entrance if you so wish.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Anderson and Gallows had an interview from earlier. They state that the New Day has ruined the tag division. The division is like a clown car, and they are going to push that car off a cliff. They are going to end the fun and games. The two guys who over the past 2 months stole a man's testicles and came up with the well-remembered acronym Old Fart. These guys are sick of the jokes around here.
I mean, they're clearly put in a position now where they have to rehab Gallows and Anderson. I'm assuming that they saw the mistake in trying to push these guys as whatever they were supposed to be, and now they're trying to make them serious
Doctors.
again.
Doctors way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Graves calls R-Truth's rapping horrible, and given that they're in L.A., where the likes of Tupac and Dr. Dre are from, it's especially awful. There was a beatdown on Goldust. The tag was made to Truth. Anderson and Truth were on offense. Then Gallows sent Goldust to the floor with a knee. They hit Truth with the Magic Killer, 323, and then a post-match attack on Goldust, hitting him with the Magic Killer as well. They did get heat for this. But talk about too little, too late. After our 18-month program with the New Day, where they lost every single match. So there you have it. Anderson and Gallows, who have nobody to feud with either. Maybe they will be the setup for Sheamus and Cesaro. Owens and Jericho are backstage, and they walk into Ashton Kutcher and Danny Masterson. And Jericho calls them Kutchner and Danny Dumbface. And Masterson steals the list and starts reading it and makes fun of Jericho losing to Fandango at WrestleMania. They argue who are the better set of friends. Owens just walks off, stating that 70s show would have been better with him and Jericho. Kutcher then finishes Masterson's sentence about wanting chocolate cake, and they will be ringside for their match. They go back and forth telling Jericho to be quiet, and Jericho says, "You better stay out of our business or you will get." And he leaves from one side and then comes back the opposite side and says, "It."
Yeah.
This did happen.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It could have been worse, I feel. I thought it was fine. I think Jericho, though, is doing a good job of endearing himself to the crowd and slowly turning himself babyface just by being very funny and entertaining.
Jericho is consistently the best part of all of his segments.
Sure. Yeah.
Then we had, I wasn't even going to go over the Susan G. Komen stuff, but we have to talk about this segment with Enzo and Cass, who were the people that were in the ring with the cancer survivors. And this was such a strange segment. They were out there to essentially present these championship belts to these cancer survivors. But Cass...
Sorry.
Cass had to transition from like his catchphrases into this speech. So they're the realest guys in the room. And Cass says, "Speaking of real," and he gets serious. Enzo is there along too, and he referred to the Susan Certified G. Komen Foundation. I don't know what I'm supposed to react to this. Are we supposed to be entertained by these lines? These are very weird. Then he talked about how we had he's like, "Look what we got here." And I swear, I thought he was going to describe different cancers as a couple of haters. I literally thought,
thought he was
my
gonna
God,
just-
are they going in the direction where Cass is going to rhyme off different forms of cancer? Because I didn't know what direction he was going with. He's like, look what we got here. He was setting him up for the roll call that Cass always does. And we were going to get a how you doing. They didn't do that.
What?
That is why.
Leukemia, how you doing? Prostate cancer, how you doing? That's a ridiculous assumption, but very funny to think.
Way he had preceded this with the Certified G Komen Foundation, okay? I thought all bets were off. Then he said we got a couple of winners here because they had won a contest. Enzo then yells, spoiler alert, these women have already won their battle against cancer and are honored with championship belts. And then, as you laugh at me for thinking that, Cass ends the segment by stating,
So, by the way, they did the how you doing listing the names of the cancer survivors.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Cass says, there is one word that doesn't describe these women. Let me repeat, because I do not want to be misquoted. There is one word that does not describe these women, and he spelled out the word soft. Probably not necessary for this individual segment.
Well, I mean, listen, anytime you get a Susan G. Komen segment, it's a PR segment. And what are you supposed to do with a PR segment but throw in a ton of catchphrases? And this was their attempt at throwing in all the Enzo and Cass catchphrases in a segment talking about cancer survivors, which, you know, it was, by the end of it, I think it was fine. I don't think anybody's up in arms about it. It was a little awkward, definitely, and didn't really seem all that organic as opposed to, you know, maybe like John Cena coming out and just saying, hey, let's have a hand for these women, like he's done in the past. Trying to throw in all the catchphrases may be a little bit much, but it's how they script these guys. I think what it shows is how much they believe in Enzo and Cass for them to lead this pretty big, you know, company
Yeah,
type of
be
segment.
the focal people
Yeah.
for this segment. Coming up this Sunday night on The Law, we are going to be running through the WWE No Mercy event as Jason Agnew and I will have a full rundown of the show from Sacramento, California. Tune in at midnight Eastern Time on TSN 1050 Toronto, TSN 1410 Vancouver, and listen live at liveaudiowrestling.com. Kutcher and Masterson were on commentary next. The second half of season 1 of The Ranch will be on Netflix this week.
Okay.
I'm going to make a bold prediction that Netflix will not be experiencing any crashing issues this week. Kutcher says that if he still did Punk'd, that Jericho would be going down. Everyone knows that stereotype of when someone's got to impersonate, it's wrestling, so I'm going to yell. That was Ashton Kutcher on this show.
Yeah. We're going to the wrestling show to play wrestling.
Yeah, we're going to stomp him in the head. That was Ashton Kutcher. Danny Masterson, I don't even think he was fully here. Like, they needed to cut away to show that he was actually there on commentary because I was starting to forget this man was even part of this. I think he was.
Man,
this was PR event number 85 this week to promote The Ranch.
I think this segment would have been way better if like they announced with Cole and Graves and Byron on like a square table, and they had the camera in the middle to do that shot.
Well, I'm sure many people listening to this would have preferred everyone be high for this segment because this was a lot of the strengths, in particular, of Michael Cole and Corey Graves and how good they were. Michael Cole is an unsung hero on these shows.
Yeah.
Dude, this guy knew the show, The Ranch, and actually brought up a character to just endear him to these two and try and seamlessly work in The Ranch and just naturally get it into this conversation for this match. Anyway, Jericho and Owens were referred to as Jerko by Ashton Kutcher. And Kutcher is explaining the show. Big E's got the advantage on Owens and then got sent shoulder first into the post. Jericho, did you catch where he busted up his nose here?
No,
Because it was bleeding for the entire show here, or the entire match. Owens came in, hit a cannonball on Big E, and then hit a senton. They went through a commercial break. They got the heat on Woods. Kutcher said, "I wish I had a telestrator. I'd point out Kevin Owens' beer belly." Thankfully, Graves came to the defense of the Universal Champion here, as Kutcher did acknowledge that he would lose a wrestling match to Owens. I'm just going to cut through this. This commentary to me was unbearable. I don't know about you. I hated it. It was just so counterproductive and just way too long.
It felt really forced. Like they were trying to force in an interview with Kutcher and Masterson that you would probably see on a Komen or some type of late night talk show in the body of a wrestling match. And, you know, the whole time it kind of felt like Kutcher and Masterson were just kind of making fun of what they were seeing.
They were out here and it's like, okay, this is a 2-segment match.
Yeah.
We've got 2 minutes of material.
Yeah, so... But what do you want? You know, they're in L.A. These two they love having celebrities on the show, and this is what you get.
So anyway, Seth Rollins shows up, distracts Owens, and turns around and gets hit with an enziguri by Xavier Woods. Big E gets tagged in, hits a number of belly-to-belly suplexes to Jericho. Owens super kicks Big E, and then Owens lands on the floor, setting up a Tope con Hero by Xavier Woods. Woods then hit a discus elbow to Owens. The Lion Tamer is applied, but Rollins runs down. Jericho lets go of the hold, and it eventually leads to the Midnight Hour being hit to Jericho through the assistance of Seth Rollins, and Big E pins Jericho, and Rollins goes after Owens, who leaves with the title, and it ends with Rollins giving the pedigree to Jericho as Kevin Owens watches on from the ramp.
I wish there was a rule that said, like, if you're a celebrity and you want to do some type of co-promotion with the WWE, you have to be willing to take a powerbomb off the stage. Because I feel like that's the only time celebrity involvement works
Machine
out.
Gun Kelly.
The best.
Great.
It was great.
Tom Phillips is with Charlotte and Dana Brooke backstage. Says that Charlotte says that Sasha knows the only reason she's in the main event is because of her and was born for these moments. Sasha has butterflies because she'll be exposed tonight as an overachiever, and social media has put her on a pedestal. She's not going to make history tonight, but Sasha's going to be history after tonight. I thought a good promo from Charlotte.
To expose somebody as an overachiever, isn't that a compliment? You're an overachiever.
Well, she is a, I guess, someone that has overachieved, but she's going to be reeled in tonight by Charlotte, and people are going to see, wow, she's really not that good. She just got lucky.
Okay, that makes sense.
Some members of the Rams and Dodgers were ringside. Seth Rollins is backstage, and Stephanie comes up asking why he put himself in jeopardy out there. He says that she does not get to tell him what to do anymore. She says he is all alone for the first time in his WWE career and doesn't stand a chance and is replaceable just like everybody else. We've really had that separation now. Stephanie is no longer this even fake babyface, right? Is that what I'm to take from this?
I think all bets are off until...
Like before we were, well, is Stephanie telling the truth? And here she's just being a dick.
Yeah, I don't know. I think all bets are off until Hunter comes back, and then you'll probably get more of a defined character role for Steph. But this was, I thought, notable because somebody finally gets one.
Rollins got to stand up to her.
Yeah, which is, I'm glad the top baby face gets to at least do that.
He says that Stephanie's worst decision, her second worst decision. Sorry, he was talking about Hunter. Hunter's second worst decision was choosing Owens over Rollins. And his worst decision was marrying Stephanie. And he's going to make Stephanie's life a living hell if he doesn't get a rematch with Owens, and will burn Raw to the ground. Meaning that he's going to schedule debates every single week. And it ended with the Roman Reigns smirk on Stephanie's face. I'm sure that was done intentionally. That's going to be the big reveal. If you can't get enough of Wai Ting and myself, be sure to tune in each Wednesday afternoon at liveaudiowrestling.com for a review of SmackDown as Wai and I go through all of the events from the WWE SmackDown program. Rich Swann and Tony Nese. There was an insert promo from Nese. Mentioned twerking and Amber Rose.
Yeah, he called Rich Swann a second-rate Amber Rose. And I thought a rather weak and kind of generic promo from Tony Nese by WWE standards. I think a lot of these guys are really great in ring, but I think their promos kind of expose them on a character-heavy show like Raw.
Crowd got into some of the sequences from Nese with the strikes, and he won with a pump handle into a Michinoku driver in 4:38. I thought the match was fine.
I thought it was fine. I didn't think the crowd was all that there for it, and I don't really blame them because, again, you don't really have much of an introduction for these guys. I also don't really understand the booking here because it feels like Swann is one of their projects. I feel like Swann has kind of had the exposure every single week or almost every single week, and Nese lost last week, so it just kind of feels like all these guys are beating each other, and I'm not sure who they're going to go for.
It was his swan song on Monday. Hispanic Heritage Month featured Mil Mascaras, and of course they had to get in his 97 Rumble elimination. There was a vignette for Emma, the makeover of Emma to Emma Lena, premiering soon. She's coming back and probably in a bikini.
Yeah, it looks interesting.
Cesaro and Sheamus took on Raul White and Mark Carity. This went a minute 55, ending when Cesaro went to leap off the back of Sheamus. There is poetry in motion. This was fourth grade handwriting in motion. Off the back as he nearly killed himself, slipping on his back to hit a DDT to the other dude. Sheamus hit a bro kick. They won. Cole said it wasn't pretty. In fact, it was actually pretty ugly.
It was.
The dream team.
I feel like these two have some, now that I've seen them more interact more as a team on like in backstage segments, I feel like these two have something.
Oscar De La Hoya was showing. There was a big feature on Charlotte and Sasha going back to their NXT days. And then Charlotte and Dana are walking backstage. They run into Bayley. Charlotte mocks her, calling her Dora the Explorer. And she leaves. Dana goes to bully her. And then Bayley beats the hell out of Dana, injuring her knee and giving a nice reason for why Dana would not be ringside for the match.
Yeah, and teases their program.
It's not often WWE goes this extra stretch, but I liked that attention to detail and the Foley one as well to a lesser degree, but especially this one to explain Dana not being there. Charlotte and Sasha Banks is our main event, and immediately Banks hits a suicide dive to the floor, which I guess was the tribute to Lita and Trish.
Was that what it was?
Well, minus a near broken neck.
She does it every match, though.
Well, I don't know. It was such an early spot.
She did it their first match, too. Remember when she almost broke her neck?
Yes. Maybe that was the official tribute. We come back after the break. Charlotte's yanked her off the turnbuckle, is working over her back for a number of minutes here. And then Banks gets knocked from the top turnbuckle and gets kicked into the corner. Big boot. Banks kicks out of that. Sasha comes back with double knees from the top. Banks is then sent to the floor. Charlotte climbs the turnbuckle. You think she's going for a moonsault, but hits his tornillo to the floor. Mm-hmm. And they showed a replay a number of times. I mean, this was very impressive.
It's a nice surprise.
Yeah, this looked really good. Came back with the natural selection in the ring, getting a 2 count. The crowd was really into this. I thought Sasha's selling was tremendous. She was getting ragdolled all over the place.
I wonder how much of it is selling and how much of it is just her being sort of like a skinnier person. Because everything she takes, she looks like a crash test dummy taking it, and I worry about her.
I think everyone worries about her. She hit the natural selection. Sasha kicked out of that, and Charlotte is slapping Sasha repeatedly in frustration, yelling at her to stay down. Banks then comes off the ropes into a tilt-a-whirl into the Banks statement. Charlotte leans back, which was the SummerSlam finish for the pinfall, but now Sasha has a counter for that, rolling backwards back into the Banks statement, and she taps out Charlotte, and Sasha Banks is the new Raw Women's Champion. I thought this was a very good match.
It was a very good match, yes. I thought it was a good moment, and it felt big to win here in L.A., though I wonder if this was kind of rushed at all, because it kind of felt like the whole feeling of this whole thing kind of had a big feeling of hitting the undo button over the past several weeks, trying to take us back to the moment when Sasha first won on Raw and erasing basically all the Bayley involvement and just so that we can carry on with the Sasha Reigns title reign.
And do you suppose that this sets up the rematch for Hell in a Cell?
For a cell match itself?
I don't know if it'll be a cell match or not, but I mean, it almost has to be some kind of big deal for that show.
Sure. Yeah, I guess so. I feel like maybe it's too soon to go to Bayley right now. Bayley looks like she's going to take on Dana. But I don't know why you do the title switch here, though.
So that you have the reason to do the automatic rematch. I think that's the thinking.
This was already a rematch, wasn't it?
Yeah, but now Charlotte gets her rematch. That's how these titles work, Way.
I don't know if I like that, you know?
This is Jerry Lawler, USWA title booking.
Yeah, I don't know.
She's going to have 28 reigns.
I thought Charlotte was great, though. I think her acting, as I've said in previous weeks, I think her acting has just reached an incredible level over the past year. And I think to me, she is the best woman in the division right now.
In the division.
Yes.
What about the world?
She still has a bit of work to do to catch up to Mother Teresa, I think.
All right. That's going to wrap up our review of Raw, but we are going to be back later this Wednesday as we review SmackDown heading into the WWE's No Mercy pay-per-view event. Of course, you can go to liveaudiowrestling.com, download all of our shows, and, of course, follow him at Way0937. The official voice of Live Audio Wrestling is Wai Ting.
Okay.
And that is all for
say
us.
so.
Thank you for watching Review of Raw. We'll speak with you next time.